Mind is the master power that molds and makes. And man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills. We think in secret, and it comes to pass. Our environment is but our looking glass. Do you know James Allen wrote those words a little over 100 years ago? I began to study them close to 50 years ago. Every year they mean a little more to me. I want to talk to you here about the law of thinking. Thinking is a powerful force. It's been said that it's the most powerful force we're capable of. Do you know Archibald MacLeish, a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright, had a character stand up in a play one time called The Secret of Freedom. And the character says, the only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you'll find in a pig or horse. You know, it sounds like a funny line, but it's true. Everything else you will find in a pig or a horse. You see, the mind, it's the most powerful force in the world. And thinking is a very, very powerful form of energy. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. Now, as we go into the laws of thinking, I want to refer to a few points from Raymond Halliwell. He said, to the average person, life is an enigma, a deep mystery, a complex and incomprehensible problem, or appears so. But it's very simple if one holds the key. You see, mystery is just another name for ignorance. All things are mysterious when they're not understood. But when we understand life, it no longer appears mysterious. Do you know, until I was 26, life was a real mystery to me. It was an incomprehensible problem. And, of course, I had many problems. But then I began to study, and I began to study this information. And, you know, it took me a while, but as I started to adopt the concepts and adapt my mind to them, my life started to change. My problems started to sort of disappear. I started to earn a lot more money. I was living in a healthy body, very rarely ever being ill. I noticed that I started to attract different people into my life, more interesting people. You see, the truth was, I was just becoming a more interesting person. A person's interesting because they're interested. And you see, as we start thinking powerful thoughts, everything starts to happen. Now let me share something that Raymond Halliwell said. He said, we're progressive beings, you and I, a creature of constant growth, before whom lies an illimitable ocean of progress to be navigated and conquered only by development and culture of our inherent powers. The progress of the individual is largely determined by what? What do you think it is? Now, let me share that again. The progress of the individual is largely determined by, it's a good question, isn't it? It's by his ruling mental state. Because the mind is the basic factor in governing power in the entire life. My life and your life, you see. Attention should be given to the predominant mental state, for it will regulate the action and direction of all one's forces, faculties, and powers, the sum total of which will inevitably determine many particular experiences and the personal fate. You see, the ruling state is like the CPU. You're familiar with your computer. Well, that's what the ruling state of the computer is. You see? The ruling state of mind is made up of various mental attitudes, which the individual adopts towards things, events, and life in general. If the attitudes are broad in mind, optimistic in tone, and true of life, his predominant mental state will correspond and exhibit a highly constructive and progressive tendency. As almost all the forces of the personality function through the conscious mind in one way or another, And as the daily mental and physical acts are largely controlled by the conscious mind, it's obvious that the leading mental state must determine the direction which the powers of the individual must proceed. You see, the ruling mental state is everything. I know that you and I have been trained to believe that we've got to change what's going on out there. You know, we've got to fix this and fix that. And we have literally been programmed to live through our senses, to go by what we hear, see, smell, taste, or touch. But you know, there's been little thought given to our higher faculties: perception, the will, intuition, memory, reason, imagination. And see, they're all our inner faculties, and that's where it really happens. This is where it all begins, inside. You don't have to worry about changing what's going on out there. I don't care if it's your bank account or the health of your body. You're going to find the x-rays will show a different you. The bank account will show a different balance. And everything in life will begin to change as you take over the power of thought. Thought is a very, very powerful force. Let me share something that Raymond Hollywell says on thought. He says thought is a subtle element. Although it is invisible to the physical sight, it is an actual force of substance, as real as electricity, light, heat, water, or even stone. We are surrounded by a vast ocean of thought through which our thoughts pass like currents of electricity, or tiny streaks of light, or musical waves. You can flash your thoughts from pole to pole, completely around the world, many times in less than a single second. Now think of what he's saying. You can flash your thoughts right around the globe several times in less than a single second. Scientists tell us that thought is compared with the speed of light. They tell us our thoughts travel at the rate of 186,000 miles per second. We have a hard time comprehending that. He goes on to point out that our thought travels 930,000 times faster than the sound of our voice. No other force or power in the universe yet known is as great or as quick. It is a proven fact scientifically that the mind is a battery force, the greatest of any known element. You see, the thinker is like the computer processor. You know, when it's finely tuned, it really works fast. You can think, and what you think ultimately produces the results in your life. See, there's laws to thought. I'm going to tell you something that I've learned beyond a shadow of a doubt. The thoughts that you think and turn over to your emotional mind instantly, by law, control the vibratory rate of your body. Your body is a massive magnetic energy. It truly is. You know, if you put your body in front of an infrared television camera in a completely dark room, you just see it as a glistening, radiating, gleaming form. As a matter of fact, if you could hear it, it would be like a symphonic concert being played. Oh, I know, to the eye it just looks like a thing, you know. But it's not a thing. The body itself is one of the most magnificent instruments on the planet, and you live in one. And it's how you think that is going to dictate what this body is going to do. We know that our actions produce our results. If we want to change our results, we've got to change our actions. However, if you don't go to the thought, the actions are never, the actions may change temporarily. But believe me, the thoughts that you think repeatedly become fixed in your subconscious mind. And those thoughts are going to determine what happens in your life. Make no mistake about it. Now, play with this for a moment. We hear a lot about positive and negative attitudes or positive and negative thinking. Well, some think that we deal with two forces. That is, we attract the good and we must do away with the bad. You've heard that many times. We attract the good, we must do away with the bad. Well, that is not true. For example, if we are cold, we do not work with cold and heat alike in order to get warm. This is very simple processing that we're going through here, mental processing. We build a fire and we gather around the fire and we enjoy the heat that is extended from it and we become warm. As we build warmth, the cold disappears, for the cold is the absence of the heat. Just like dark is absence of the light. Let there be light, you see. To be warm, we give our whole thought to those things which tend to create warmth. We ignore the cold in thinking of heat and bring forth heat. Prosperity and poverty are not two things. They are merely two sides of one thing, the same thing. There is but one power. Rightly or wrongly used, we cannot think of plenty and then worry about the unfavorable conditions that may seem apparent. If you want to change the results in your life, and I'm just working on the premise that you do, or you wouldn't even be watching this film right now, give your thought to your mind. Give serious thought to this series of overviews that I'm doing on the laws that you're studying. You see, Huxley was right. He said the only corner of the universe that we can be certain of improving, it's our own self. That's all. You know, all those things we want to change outside are all a reflection of what's going on inside. Well, that may be a big idea for you right now, but as you study this for a week, a month, a year, and then come back and hear me say that, it's going to sound like a totally different statement. You choose your thoughts, and your thoughts create your life. You truly do become what you think about. There is a law of thinking. Make no mistake about it. This is Bob Proctor, and thank you. Hello there. How would your life change if you woke up this morning and find that someone had deposited $9 million in your bank account? How would that affect you? How would your mind shift if next week, just like that, you attracted 1,000 new clients into your business? 1,000. What would your life be like if, bang, just like that, you realized you had the energy of a 20-year-old? How would your mind shift if Mensa recognized you as the smartest person on the planet? They're good questions, aren't they? Well, let me tell you something. There's a lot more than 9 million just waiting there to come into your life. There's an infinite supply. And the 1,000 clients, there's tens of thousands of people out there just waiting for someone to come and serve them. And the 20-year-old energy, do you know all the energy there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. No one gets energy. Everyone releases energy. And desire is the triggering mechanism that releases energy. And as far as being the smartest, hey, listen. The smartest sometimes are not the most effective. Being smart isn't the answer. Being effective is the answer. Did you know that all the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time? I'm Bob Proctor, and I want to talk to you about the law of supply as we're going through and giving you an overview in this video series of the laws, those 11 lost laws. Supply is one of them. Do you know, Halliwell said that man's never satisfied. Never satisfied. The fact is deplored by many, but God did not intend man to be forever satisfied. You see, dissatisfaction is actually a creative state. That's right. There's a lot of people that mix up satisfaction and happiness. You can be very happy and very dissatisfied. I am never satisfied with the results that we get in our company, any of the companies that we have. I'm happy with them, but never satisfied. See, dissatisfaction is a creative state. Yeah, it was dissatisfaction that led to the incandescent light. Edison just got sick and tired of dealing with a wax candle or a kerosene lamp. You see? Yeah, it was dissatisfaction that led the Wright brothers to introduce us to a brand new kingdom. Yeah, it was dissatisfaction that took Edwy Hillary right to the top of the world. It was dissatisfaction that caused John Kennedy to make a statement that we would be on the moon in this decade. He said that way back in the 60s. Now, I hope you are dissatisfied. And if you're not, well, I'm going to say a quiet prayer for you. See, we believe, therefore, that it is right and good for people to seek to gratify all pure desires and ambitions. Now, I know there's a lot of people that don't agree with that, but they don't agree with a lot of things. But you're going to find out the small select group of people that really understand these laws, understand there is an infinite source of supply. Everything comes from one infinite source. Everything's made from the same. The difficulty with some is that they can more easily look to the creature as the source of their substance than to the Creator. It's just beyond the average person's grasp. We don't really believe that God is the source of our substance. Now, when we start to believe it, I think it starts to happen. Let me share something with you that I read a long time ago. Dr. Wernher von Braun was one of the greatest scientists that ever lived. He's considered by many as the father of the space program. Think about this for a moment. He said after studying this spectacular... Now, before I mention this, let me also mention that for a long time, science and religion were antagonistic. They just could not come together. But they since have come together. Now, von Braun said that after years of studying the spectacular mysteries of the cosmos, he was led into a firm belief in the existence of God. Now, I'm not trying to turn this into a religious dissertation. I am just mentioning my own personal belief after studying these laws for very close to 50 years. I see the law as the uniform and orderly method of the omnipotent God. A law is something that happens every time, with every person, everywhere. And everyone that has accomplished anything will be quick to tell you this. See, as we look back, everybody loves a dead genius. They really do. But you know, all of these great geniuses from history that we look at, they weren't considered geniuses when they were alive. The Wright brothers were considered real heretics. They really were. See, the people that made it happen, they were out of the box. They weren't ordinary thinkers. But they understood that there was this governing process called the law. You see, before we're able to believe in abundance of good, we've got to then see and enjoy that everything comes from one infinite source of supply. And when we really understand that, everything is going to change direction for us. Nothing can be made from something any more than something can be made from nothing. But where does water come from? Let's give it some thought. If we went outside on a nice clear day and stood there with a cup, just stood there, and we were patient, and we stayed there long enough, do you know that that cup would fill with water? Yeah. You would see in the no thing, you would see a cloud formation. And the cloud would become very heavy and very dark, and before long, water would fall out of it. Now, if we stayed there with that cup, where would the water go to? It'd go right back to where it came from. See, as above, so below. As below, so above. I want you to think about that. Nothing is created or destroyed. Everything's in a constant evolution of change. We literally live in an ocean of motion. You and I have the godlike ability to create images in our mind. And as we create the images in our mind, we control the vibration that we're in, and that vibration sets up an attractive force. In the seminars that I conduct, I hold up a little acorn sometimes that comes from a giant oak tree. But the little acorn is nothing but a mass of energy in a high speed of vibration. It's just a little physical nut. Now, if I kept that acorn in my pocket, that acorn would disintegrate because it's governed by a very, very basic law, create or disintegrate. And it's not in an environment that's conducive to its unfoldment. But let's suppose I take and I plant that acorn in the earth. Do you know that there's particles of earth that are in harmonious vibration with that little mass of energy that we call an acorn? See, if you looked at the acorn through a microscope, it's not solid. It's just a little mass of energy that's dancing. Let me digress for a moment. Let's suppose I took 2 drops of water on a glass-top table and I pushed them together until they touched. Then I'd have 1 drop, wouldn't I? I'd have a bigger drop. Let's suppose I put another drop and I pushed it together. What do you think the odds are of me separating that one little drop, the one little puddle, I guess I could say, back into the same 3 little mass of molecules, the same 3 dots? You know it's not going to happen. You know, what God hath joined together gives it new meaning, doesn't it? Well, you see, there's particles of energy that's jammed right up against the acorn in the earth that don't vibrate in harmony with the acorn. But there's particles of energy that do vibrate in harmony with the acorn, and the acorn's like a magnetic force, and if you could see it with the naked eye, you would see little particles of energy marching just like obedient soldiers right towards the acorn. And as they touch the acorn like that, like the 2 drops of water, they become one with the acorn. And this process is continuous. It's continuous. And the only particles of energy that the acorn can attract are the particles that vibrate in harmony with it. They're on a frequency. And the acorn keeps attracting and keeps expanding. And the shoots come out of the bottom, and then it breaks through the earth, and it attracts from the atmosphere as well as from the earth. And before long, you'll see a giant oak tree. All by attraction. It's all energy moving. There's one source of supply, just one. Well, do you know that you are attracting to you right now from an infinite source? Now, if you're holding thoughts of lack and limitation, that's what you're going to attract. The universe, by law, can only give you what you put in the order for. What are you putting in the order for? We talked in a previous video about thinking. There's a law of thinking. Well, as you think, you attract. So think about it. What have you put in order for? What are you attracting? Everything comes from one infinite source. You might say, well, I don't really understand that. Then just take my word for it, because I do understand it. And if you study it for a while, you're going to start to understand it. Like Solomon said, in all you're getting, get understanding. Well, let's understand where everything does come from. There's no lack. There's no limitation. As long as you live through your sensory factors and just go by what you see, then there will be lack and limitation, because you're dealing with a very limited view. But when you start dealing with God's eye view, you see things from a much higher level. There's no lack and no limitation. And understand this, what you think you attract, and you attract from one infinite source of supply. Study this law of supply. It's a phenomenal law. And it works for every person, every time, everywhere. This is Bob Proctor, and thank you. Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor, and I am attracting good, great, and wonderful things into my life. Money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis through the law of attraction. And that's what I want to talk to you about, the law of attraction. See, the underlying law that regulates supply in the world of effects has 2 important phases. One is desire, and the other is expectation. I want you to imagine that you're fishing. Now, you may have never gone fishing. You've certainly seen people that have gone fishing. And you take and you get the line all fixed, and boom, you cast it out. And as soon as that plug hits the water, bang, a fish strikes. Now, you got the fish on the end of the line, but you are never going to have that fish if you don't reel it in. Well, you see, when we desire something, we are instantly connected with the invisible side of whatever good we desire. It's expectation that reels it in. Now, most people don't understand this, and they attract what they don't want rather than what they do want. I remember years and years ago, I got a bumper sticker that said, "Expect a miracle." And I kept looking at that bumper sticker, and I kept looking at it and looking at it, and I got to the point where I was expecting something so good to happen in my life, that I wouldn't be able to explain it. You see, I come to realize that a miracle is a word, Voltaire said, it's a word that we invented to express the known effects of unknown causes. It's something that's so good that's happened to us that we're at a loss to explain how it happened. I want to explain how I attracted something into my life that literally changed my life, changed my business, but it changed the lives of 200 or 300 million people as well. I got a phone call on my cell phone, and it was a very garbled message. I had difficulty understanding it, and I didn't delete it, but I just kept hitting the pound or the hash and leaving it there in the phone. And one day, my phone was full. So I thought, well, I should empty the thing. I think I was in an airport at the time, so I sat down and I took all the messages off one at a time and wrote them all out and then deleted them. And I phoned Gina Hayden, who's worked with me for the past quarter century, and I said, Gina, I think this woman's name is Glenda, and I think this is the phone number. It sounds like an Australian phone number. Would you phone now? There's something about a film. Would you phone and see if the number's even the right number? Now, I'd had it on my phone for a good month. And so at any rate, a couple of days later, or maybe even later that day, I've forgotten now, I'm talking to Gina, and she said, well, that was the right message. Her name was Glenda, and you had the right phone number, and there's a film crew in from Australia, and they're shooting this film, and they really wanted you in it. But they haven't been able to reach you, and they're shooting in Aspen all weekend, and they're going back to Australia first of the week. And Gina said, isn't that strange? Bob's doing a seminar this week in Aspen. Now, I hadn't been in Aspen for a couple of years. And I check into my hotel. I just went next door where they were shooting the film. And the film, of course, was The Secret. And you know, all of a sudden, all over the world now, people know Bob Proctor, and they know about the work that I do, that I love doing. I believe that I attracted Rhonda Byrne into my life. But I also believe Rhonda Byrne attracted me into her life. And you see, the secret, I attracted. I expected something big to happen. And I'm going to tell you something, I expect something even bigger to happen. Now, the law of attraction is, it's a law that many people now are very familiar with. And of course, I think that the secret has probably communicated that law better than anything that I have come across in all the years I've been in this business. They deserve, the people that put that all together, deserve a lot of credit. A lot of people think I made it. I didn't make the film. I just sat there for a couple hours and talked, sharing what I knew. And a lot of good things have happened. Now, the law of attraction is not a primary law. The law of vibration is the primary law. See, everything in the universe vibrates. We literally live in an ocean of motion. I want you to look at the walls that surround you. You think those walls are solid. They're not solid. Nothing is resting. Everything is moving. A body in a coffin is moving. Now, you may think that I'm sniffing something, but I'm really not. If you go into a funeral home and pick up the remains and look at it through a microscope, you will see particles of energy dancing right before your eyes. Now, if it wasn't moving, how would it ever change to dust? Well, you see, you and I have a brain. And our brain is an electronic switching station. And our thoughts activate brain cells and control the vibration we're in. And the vibration we're in controls what we attract into our life. Now, this law of attraction is a phenomenal law. And I think the law of attraction, as it's brought out in this series, it's very well done. And I would encourage you to study into it in some depth. Because everything that comes into your life, you attract into your life. Now, you may be saying, does that mean that I have a cold, that I sat and thought I'm going to get a cold? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But you did attract the cold. You see, I don't think you sit and think I'm going to attract a cold. I think you put yourself in a very confused vibration. There's a law of gender. It decrees that all seeds have a gestation and incubation period. And after about 30, 45 days of going through that indecision, that confused state, you have a cold. That's what the cold is. It's just the expression of all the confusion. Anyway, we do attract everything into our life. Now, for many, many years, I had a terrible time with money, as most people do. And I was forever letting my outside world control my thinking. So my outside world was dictating what I was going to attract. Now, I didn't have any money. I had debt, and I'm thinking debt, I attract debt. If your goal is to get out of debt, you're going to stay in debt forever. Because whatever you think of, you attract. And you'll say, but I was thinking of getting out of debt. I don't care if it's get out or get in. You've got to start seeing what you want. In a previous lesson, we pointed out that you don't work on cold if you're cold. You work on heat. See, cold is the absence of heat. So you work at creating heat. Well, if you want good in your life, quit trying to change the bad. Quit trying to get rid of the bad. Let it go. Let the dead bury the dead. Let it be part of the past. Start to see the good that you desire. Visualize it. See it as present in your mind. The second you've got the idea in your mind, you've got it intellectually. The second you internalize it, you've got it emotionally. And then it's only a period of time until you attract it physically. Attraction's a very powerful process. We are all magnetic creatures. We're all a mass of energy. Everything in this universe works on the law of attraction. You go into some restaurants, and they're always busy. The energy is good in those restaurants. You go into others, there's hardly anybody there. Isn't that strange? You go into a clothes store, and you may be the only person there outside of the person that's running it. You go into others, and there's people coming and they're going all the time. It has to do with the energy of the place of business. And the place of business is nothing but an expression of the consciousness of the person that's running the business. When we start to understand this, when we start to understand that we literally attract everything into our life, and it's our thoughts that are controlling what we attract, our whole world's going to change. You see, nature does not deprive us of any good or desired thing. Now, Hollywood points this out so well. It does provide us with the mental equipment and the inner power to acquire and enjoy the essential good to ensure a happy and a worthwhile existence. And it all happens in a very simple method. It's so complicated because nobody studies it. See, I always feel if we can teach a little child that maybe is just learning to walk, how to talk, we can teach them language. We can teach them multiple language. A baby at birth is a linguistic genius. If we can teach the child language, surely we can teach them something so basic as these laws. You say, well, why haven't we? Because hardly anybody understood them. The parent's not going to teach something to the child that they don't even know. The parent's only going to give the child what they've got. You see, what you don't fix, your kids are going to inherit. You should put a big sign on the refrigerator, attraction. Put it on the outside of your bank account. Hang it in your mirror where you put your makeup or shave in the morning. Put the word attraction everywhere. And start to realize whatever you want, you'll begin to attract. That is an absolute law. This isn't just my idea. It is an idea that I've fallen in love with. And I want to recommend you fall in love with it. Study these laws every day. Now keep in mind, this video series is just an overview of these laws. Get into it in depth. Get the script. Study the script. You'd be so glad you did. This is Bob Proctor.